Hi there, friends. It's Bill, and you're watching Bill's Box of Sound. And this is the 2023 vinyl tag. If you don't know what that is, it's where there's a bunch of questions. This year, the questions were given out by Rob Walker. And Rob, I like your questions, but watch the spelling and be clear on some of these things. I had to think about these sometimes way too much, but that's all right. I'm still going to do it. I haven't been doing vinyl tags in the last couple of years because I just never seem to have the time to actually do it. But this year I was able to pull it together. And one of the great things about the vinyl tag is it gives you a glimpse into somebody's vinyl channel and what they collect and what their tastes are like. So if you like the stuff that they're talking about, you can like and subscribe to their channel. So if you see this and you like what you've seen, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. I do a lot of Frank Zappa stuff on this channel, but I also do stuff about a lot of other bands like Devo or Primus or XTC, and there's some jazz stuff that I do, and I do some stuff about audiophile stuff, but I've yacked for too long. Let's get to the vinyl tag. Let's get to these 20 questions. The favorite new release of 2022. Well, for me, that was Wet Leg. I bought a lot of reissues and older albums, but this power pop album by these two girls and their band, this thing rocks out and it's wonderful. It's on the, what is it, the Domino record label. And yeah, it's these two gals and their band, and they rock out. I love songs like Chaise Long All Day Long. Great album, Wet Leg. Second question, what is the last band or solo artist that you saw live? Well, that was Blue Oyster Cult. Saw them with my buddy James at the MGM Casino out in Northfield Park, Cleveland. And they did a fantastic show. They've been going for 50 years now, and they're still strong. And they put out an album a few years ago called The Symbol Remains. But in my opinion, this is the best Blue Oyster Cult album, Tyranny and Mutation. I love this album. I could play it all day long, and I get tired of it. All right, next. Their first album was their best. And for that, I'm going to have to pick Ambrosia. Their first two albums were fantastic. There's another question on here where you pick three albums from somebody that came out in a row. But Ambrosia had two great albums, and believe it or not, this one was their very first album. It's this is a prog rock masterpiece. Parts of it, if not the whole thing, was engineered by Alan Parsons. And who was the actual producer on this? Freddie Puro was the producer. Second album was produced by Alan Parsons. And then their third album was called Life Beyond LA. And they started getting soft, had that yacht rock hit with How Much I Feel. And Ambrosia kind of went downhill after that. But man, this is a classic album. Came out in 1975 on 20th Century Fox Records. Got reissued on Warner Brothers Records a few years after that. Next question. Let's see. Hat trick. Show the vinyl, CD, and cassette of an album. Well, I don't have many cassettes anymore, except for cassettes I've made myself. But talking about actual manufactured cassettes, this is a real early cassette of Weasel Ripped My Flesh by the Mothers, a.k.a. Frank Zappa. And this is when they used to have these little packages where the cassette came out like that. And that was your box. And there was also a little hole on here where they could stick these cassettes on a little display, and you could just thumb through them inside of a store. But that didn't last for too long. But I've still got this original Weasel Ripped My Flesh. I also have the original album of it on the Bizarre label. And I've got it on CD, and the first version that came out on Rykodisc and the second version that came out on Rykodisc has some wonky sound, even though there's extra music on it. Some of the tracks are longer, but something went wrong in the mastering stage, and this CD sounds horrible, almost unlistenable. Then in 2012, they finally got it right. So if you want that album on CD, you get this one, the one that looks like this, and it's got that on the back. And this has the best sound of any version of Weasels Ripped My Flesh, aside from the vinyl, of course. So there's my hat trick. Number 5, an album that starts and ends with the same letter. Well, I wanted to choose Axamaxua by Grateful Dead, and then I was thinking Time Out by Dave Brubeck, but went one further. Time Further Out by the Dave Brubeck Quartet. It's got this painting by Miro on the front cover, and got some tunes on here that became Dave Brubeck standards. Mostly It's a Raggy Waltz became a very popular tune of his. Question number 6. Born in the same year as you. Well, does that mean the album came out the same year that you were born? Or you talk about the artist the same year? Most people are saying the artist was born the same year as you are. So that would be 1959, which is the year that Kinda Blue came out by Miles Davis. But this gentleman was born, John Linnell. He's mostly known as one of the two Johns of They Might Be Giants. And this is his solo album, State Songs, which came out, was re-released on Record Store Day, and is a good-looking green splatter vinyl with darker green in it. And these are songs about different states of the United States. Next question. The most listened to album in 2022. A lot of times I listen to something, I put it on the shelf, and I don't pull it back out until I just have the need to listen to it again. And I listen to a lot of records, but I think the record that I ended up listening to the most in 2022 was John Coltrane's Love Supreme. Mostly because I picked up the Acoustic Sounds version of it and listened to that a number of times, and then went back to all the other versions that I have, because I had 4 versions of it at the time, and I was comparing them back and forth. I even made a video of the comparisons. And then after that video, I gave 1 copy to my daughter and her husband. So, I Love Supreme, a fantastic album, a timeless album. This album will make you feel good. Some people don't like it, but I love it. That's the album I listen to the most. And let's see. Next question. What is the most listened to artist? It says most listened to, T-O-O. Most listened to artist. Well, if you watch my channel, you know the answer to that. Frank Zappa. No need to expand on that at all. Okay, number 9, an Australian artist or band. Well, the first one that came to mind for me was Midnight Oil. And this is the first album I ever heard by them. It's called 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great freaking album. Classic songs like Outside World, Short Memory, Read About It, U.S. Forces, Power and the Passion. This whole album is just loud, political, well-played rock and roll from a great bunch of Australians, and very passionate. Next is, what is the most surprising purchase of 2002? Well, late 2021, the album The Sparks Brothers came out, a documentary about Sparks. It's a band I like a lot, and I used to collect Sparks records like crazy. back in the 70s and the 80s. And then I kind of lost track with them after the album Balls, and stopped buying their records for a while. And little did I know, they kept on putting out albums year after year. So after I saw the Sparks Brothers movie and got really excited about the band Sparks again, all their albums that were only put out on CD were starting to get re-released on vinyl. So I picked up this album by Sparks, Little Beethoven. And this is the album that Sparks reinvented themselves on. The whole album is nothing but Ron and Russell Mael, and it's done as though it's like nothing but orchestrated keyboards and vocals. I think there's only one track that has guitar or drums on it. And the first time I listened to it, I'm like, wait a second, when's the beat kick in? When does the beat kick in? And the first song is The Rhythm Thief, Say Goodbye to the Beat. This album is unlike any other Sparks album. And after listening to it a couple times, I've concluded this is a treasure. This is a classic. I love this record, and I'm so glad that Sparks got me pulled right back in again to where they wanted me to be. Now, an artist or a band that you are complete on. Well, there's a lot of those. Jeez, I could have picked Zappa. I would like to pick XTC, although I don't have all their singles. Primus, I got all their albums. I don't have that set of 45s that Third Man came out with last year, but there was nothing unreleased on it, so I didn't go for it. But one band that I had a couple of albums by, and then they offered a boxed set of all their albums, is Cake. And I have all their albums. And they haven't put anything out since. I mean, they still tour every now and again, but I've got all of their albums. I also have all of Blind Faith's albums, but yeah, they put out 6 studio albums, 1 live album, and 1 compilation album of B-sides and rarities. But this is a formulaic band, and their formula, because they stick to it, works wonderfully. John McCrae on vocals and the rest of the guys. In the boxed set with all of their albums, every single album came out on a different color vinyl. Some pink, some red, some blue, some gray. Pretty cool stuff. But yes, I do like the band Cake. Next, a great run of 3 albums. Well, being from Cleveland, I paid attention to this guy a lot over the years. And he's one of the Eagles, but he's also Ringo Starr's brother-in-law. I'm talking about Joe Walsh. And this is his second solo album, The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get. And it's a great album. Produced one of his biggest hits, Rocky Mountain Way. And after that album came out, he put out an album called So What? Love this cover. There's Cool Joe on the back. And this album has Welcome to the Club, Time Out, Turn to Stone, Help Me Through the Night. This is a great record. And Joe Walsh has always had a really good sense of humor. He put out a poster of this that said, Joe What? So Walsh. And since this is for 3 in a row, 3 great albums, he put out a live album, but then he switched labels to Asylum Records and put out But Seriously Folks, which was a huge hit for him, had Life's Been Good on it, and there's a couple other great tunes on this album. Where are they? At the Station, Secondhand Store. But the big hit on this album is Life's Been Good. Life's been good to me so far. And you've got your old Floating Tablecloth. So those are 3 albums right there. Question number 13. 80s soundtrack. Now, does that mean what albums did you listen to a lot in the 80s, or an actual 80s soundtrack? I don't know. So I pulled out a couple of 80s soundtracks, two completely different soundtracks. A lot of the 80s soundtracks were pop hits, or hits with the type of genre of music that went along with the story of the movie. Like, for example, Crush Groove. This has stuff from Sheila E., the Beastie Boys, She's On It. It's got Holly Rock, the Gap Band, Force MDs, the Fat Boys, Run DMC, Shaka Khan, LL Cool J, I Can't Live Without My Radio, Curtis Blow, the Fat Boys again, and even a Debbie Harry song. This is 1980, what, 1982 or 1985 this was. Go back a couple of years to 1982, and you've got a movie that wasn't that great, but the soundtrack was banging, The Last American Version. You've got Tommy Two-Tone, The Police, Devo, Oingo Boingo, The Cars, The Waitresses with I Know What Boys Like, U2's I Will Follow. This is a great soundtrack and just a great album of 80s hits. Number 14, we lost them in 2022. Yeah, we lost a lot of people. We lost Pharoah Sanders. We lost Vangelis. Yeah, I made a video and I called him Vangelis, but his name is pronounced Vangelis. I apologize. But one guy that quietly passed away was Ramsey Lewis. You know, he played straight ahead jazz, and he went over to the pop side for a while. He did this album, has members of Earth, Wind and Fire on it. The song on here, what is it? Sun Goddess. Is it Sun Goddess? Yeah, with Maurice White and vocals. The whole Earth, Wind and Fire rhythm section on here. It's my wife's favorite Earth, Wind and Fire song, and it isn't even credited to Earth, Wind and Fire. So Ramsey Lewis, from the pop to the jazz, he is gone and he's missed. Next question. Let's see. The most disappointing purchase that you made in 2022. Well, here's an album which is kind of a tribute album to Devo, called Are We Not Skins? We Are Devoy. And this is by a group called the Tough Skins. They cover a bunch of Devo tunes in kind of like a ska band fashion. And they changed the lyrics of some of them, and this album just didn't do it for me. It was kind of like a joke that wore itself out after the second song, and there's like 10 or 11 songs on the album. One more drink. Question 16, show a non-vinyl purchase. Well, I bought a guitar amp, but I don't have room for a guitar amp. So I bought the next best thing. This little thing. This is the Fender Mustang Micro, okay? It plugs directly into your guitar, choink, and you got a volume knob, and then you've got controls for the type of amp, the EQ, effects, and the modifications on those effects. And it's got a Bluetooth out. It's also got a headphone out, and it's got your little USB-C charger, also for updates on the firmware and stuff like that. So it's music related, but it's not vinyl. So I bought that. Question 17. You found a grail. Well, this is a grail for me. Public Image Limited 9. Now, it's not the grail that the metal box is, but I've had this album on CD since it came out, and Records were kind of like an afterthought back when this album came out. And this is in what, 1989? I believe so. Yep, 1989 on Virgin Records US. And this was a promo that I found at a record show. And I saw this and it's like, mine, be precious. I love this album. It's a lot more pop oriented, kind of like the generic album that Public Image Limited did. But this one rocks even more. Just love all the songs. Disappointed, happy, same old story, good stuff. All right, we're getting down to the end. Question 18, a space-themed album or song. Well, I had it here a second ago. Space Art. Yes, this is a French album from 1977. It's basically the keyboards of D. Perrier and drums of R. Rizzitelli. Keyboards and drums. First side's pretty Second side's kind of adventurous and kind of proggy. Kind of hard to find, and sounds okay. I like it. But I was going to choose Space Force by Todd Rundgren since that came out this year. But hey, either way, I'm covered. All right. Show some VCLT or a present. Well, didn't really get that much VCLT this year. Nobody sends me records. Ooh, boo-hoo. Forget it. Anyway, Michael Christensen. He is one of my viewers. And he is also a musician. He's put out a few albums, and he put out this album called Galactic Clarity. This is available on Bandcamp by Michael Christensen. And it's some kind of spacey stuff, some almost new agey, but very different. It's not that bad of an album. It's nowhere near as horrible as the album that I put out. Where is it? I got a copy of it here someplace. This is The World's Messiest Room. Hang on a second. Here we go. Yeah, this is a horrible album. That's me, Di Verhata. This is a 70-minute instrumental bunch of trash. I got several hundred copies of this. If anybody's interested in one, I'll just... You send me the postage, I'll send you the CD. I promise you, when I put something else out, it's going to be better than this. Yes, that album from Michael. Thank you so much. That was some VCLT. Vinyl Community Love Train. And last and least, maybe, possibly, a record that was released in 1973. And man, 1973, a lot of good records came out. But one that meant a lot for me was this album, Deep Purple Machine Head. And this is my quadraphonic copy of it. Even though this has the cliches, Smoke on the Water, 1973 was also a year that I broke my leg and had to sit in the house doing nothing for a couple of months. And this album got me through a lot of that. Especially tunes like Never Before, which is the last song on side one. And Highway Star. It's a good thing that Smoke on the Water is not the only song on this album. Every single song on this is great. And that's it. That's the 2023 vinyl tag. I've gone 20 plus minutes and you're probably bored to tears right now. But if you are still here, I want to thank you for watching. And please subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. And please hit the like. Had a great time. Hope you did too. Now, go listen to some music.